Hey y'all, welcome back to the DeBergerac Channel. This is your humble host, Jim, and if you would like to build your own triple action vise stand, please stay tuned. Okay, so the first part of doing this, start with your tire and your rim. Now you don't necessarily have to have a tire on the rim, but I wanted it because it's going to make it easier to roll around. It'll stay on there 20 plus 30 years maybe, because once we do the concrete work, we won't be able to take the tire on and off again later. We're going to go ahead and put that on there like that, and this is going to hold the concrete in. So you can see it doesn't quite fit, so we're going to go over to the router table and trim a rabbet in it so it fits down in there. Here it goes. This is all wonderful and good the way it fits, but we're going to go ahead and glue it in. There's a really good reason that we're doing it like this, and as soon as this dries and gets glued on, I'll show you what the reason is. Okay, so the weight's pressed it down, and we got all of that cleaned up really nice. So it's down tight, it's in good. And what we're gonna do, just gonna take this block of wood, flip it right over on this, and now we don't have to worry about everything dripping out. It'll stay in the seam. Now I'll put the weight back on there. That'll hold everything good. Okay, so the glue has dried, holding the bottom plate in. It's going to keep the concrete inside. Filled the inside of the rim with water. And the reason I've done that is so when I get it super hot from welding, it doesn't melt the rubber on the rim. We got the digital scale on it, and it's 0, 0. Now I can put the pipe in. Okay, now why would you want to go with anything less than a 8-inch pipe? It's a man stand. You can see how I'm going to have to weld that. I have to fill it in down there a little bit. Now we want to go back to our level. So depending on exactly how I move this, we'll get as close to 90 degrees as we can. Okay, so according to the digital part, it says it's 0.2 of a degree off. Spin it this way. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. A problem that we have right now is we have nowhere to hook the ground up to. I could hook it to the top, but then it's going to change my reading. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to come off with a little stick going down here, sort of like that. I'll hook the ground up there, tack it up here, and then we'll have a ground. Now, have you ever seen the old timers? They weld without a shield. Who needs a mask? When you're MIG welding or arc welding, you should always wear earplugs. You ever had a headache after doing a lot of welding? It comes from the noise that it makes when you're welding. I found a whole nother reason for wearing earplugs other than to stop myself from getting headaches. I was welding overhead at one point, and one of the hot embers went down and rolled into my eardrum. So when I'm MIG welding, I wear my earplugs. Okay, so by welding around 4 different spots, that's pretty much held the pipe right where it's going to be. Get a lot of weld in there now that it's held in 4 spots. Okay, we got a big gap to fill. That's not something you want to say to your girlfriends. Saw how wide the gap was that I had to fill. The first time I went around it, just get some in there, you know, but scale still reading at 0 even with all that welding, and that happened because I did the 8 tacks all the way around there, so I couldn't move at that point. And I know you're all going to say this is way too much weld, but don't forget, this isn't just a vise stand. We're going to mount a small anvil off the side of it, so when we're pounding on that, we don't want to break the weld free. We're still pretty much level. We're going to add a little bit more water to it. Okay, so we'll let that cool down. Right now, to touch the water, it's probably 115 degrees. So without the water, it would have melted the rubber. And a lot of people probably want to know why I put the rubber on there. It's going to roll easier than a metal rim on the floor. All right, so the last thing was I was going to put concrete in this. I've kind of almost decided against it. I'm not sure whether I'm going to do it yet or not. I needed the plate for the vise, so we have that cut out. Problem is, after we got it done, we can't bolt down the vise because we're right on the edges of the pipe, which is fine. I made some lines. I'm going to cut these notches out. I've done 5 of the cuts. I'll show you how I did the last one. Then we'll just plasma cut this out straight across. A little cleaner cutting it down than it is if I did it with a plasma cutter. So that's why I'm using my Milwaukee Portaband, which is actually a heck of a tool. If you purchase one of these, you'll never regret it. It has worked and worked and worked. And the only thing I've ever done is replace the bands on the wheels. Always wear your safety glasses. I have my safety contacts on. Perfect. I told you that tool worked good. This is a Miller plasma cutter. It's a 375X. I wish they put a handle on it, but they put this little strap on. I said that, strap on. You put it over your shoulder, so when you go into town, you can say, oh, look at my plasma cutter. Come on, man, put a handle on it, make it like a man's tool. A great little piece of equipment other than that fact. You put air to it with a regulator, hook your ground up, set it up for what you're cutting, turn it on, and I'll show you how nice this works. That came out well, but now we have to cut the plates out. One of these is going to be for the anvil, the other will be for the pipe vise. And I kind of decided not to put cement in the bottom of this. I could do it at a later date by drilling another hole in the stainless top that's holding the vise. I'm really thinking that this is plenty heavy enough, and the concrete is just going to add more weight to what's already extremely heavy. So I have it upside down on a little bench here, and actually when I stand it up vertically, it's pretty stable. So I think the easiest way to weld it is by putting it down on the top plate, because this is chamfered on the bottom. It'll be a good place to get weld. I have 3 9/16 bolts going in there, so your weld doesn't have to be larger than that. If you have the same amount of weld as the bolts are in diameter, you'll be fine. I'll probably put a little bit more on than that, but let's get it started. So basically those slots have to be pretty well lined up in the center. We want to get them in a nice place so that when we put the nut and the bolt on, we look pretty good with it. So it's designed to take a nut and a washer. And I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. It's good visual all the way around. So let's weld it up. Now under normal circumstances you'd think, well, why doesn't he just continue welding all the way around, make it super solid? The welds are stronger than the 9/16 bolt that's going to be holding the vise down. But there's another consideration. There's nothing wrong with this tube, it'll last for a lot of years. But what if something happens to the vise and I have to change that? I want to be able to cut this plate off the top, and I don't want to have to spend a day doing it. With an angle grinder and a cutoff wheel, you could get these welds cut pretty easy. Maybe take you 15 minutes. Then you can go ahead and install a new plate on the top. So now it's time to flip it over. We'll check it out, see what it looks like. That's how it's going to sit on there. Be able to spin the vise any which direction. 2 more things to do to make this a triple action vise stand. We're going to put the anvil on it, and we're going to put the pipe vise on it. Now considering that, where do we want to put the pipe vise bracket? This isn't a huge anvil, but it's got some weight to it. The anvil will go on like this, and I want to keep the anvil height at the base height in order to be able to make sure that the vise can always swing in 360 degrees. Let's get set up to weld up. All right, not so bad. Pretty solid without even bolting it down. One more piece to put on, and I think this thing will be ready for paint. Shoot it with some seafoam green. As this show goes on, you'll see is my favorite color. Let's get the other piece tacked in. I'll finish welding it off camera, and then we'll get it painted. So there's the pipe vise, and I think we're going to put it approximately right about there. Again, with this, we still need clearance for the vise to spin all the way around, for whatever reason that would happen to be. So I'm going to mark this. I guess I can give you a sneak peek. That's going to sit right like that. The anvil's going to go on, and let's toss the vise on there. Now that is a workstation that even a child like me can enjoy. I can't wait to bolt all these things down and then just start playing. Seems really solid. It's got the movement from the rubber. if you're working on this or this. It actually gives a little bit of, instead of making that loud sound through the shop when you're hitting on something, the rubber should kill it, the noise it's gonna make. So let me get it welded up. Let's get it painted, bolted down, and we can go from there. Show you all one thing. Made up this probably, David and I made these up years ago. A MIG station holders. So when you're away from your machine, you just drop your gun in, got a place for your ground. You can do that either way. You know, when you need to cut your wire when it comes out too far, you got it right on your stand, never goes away. And I think you saw how well it worked. Let me finish up my welding and we'll get this thing painted. All right, well, that's how you do it. Hey, I'll tell you what, why don't you all subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you like our work, and make something cool. Share your stuff with us. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you later.